Hi everyone, my name is Christian Marquez, and today I'm going to be talking about how immigration status and discrimination affect immigrant mental health in the US. Um, First, I would like to start by saying that this topic it's a bit personal to me. First, because I am an immigrant, and because I have seen how the stress and the fear and all types of discrimination can affect people's lives. So my goal today is to help us to understand not only the challenges that the that many immigrants face, but what can be done to support their well-being. Because at the end, everyone deserves to feel safe, respected, and able to take care of their mental health. So, when we talk about immigrant mental health, we are not just talking about their emotions and about their feelings. We are talking about real stress, anxiety, fear, and many immigrants they deal with discrimination, low income, and a constant fear of deportation. Not only undocumented immigrants have a fear of deportation. And one thing that I learned in social epidemiology is that our health is shaped much more by our environment than by our choices. And that really applies here. When an immigrant arrives in a new country, Um, one of our biggest challenges is with our own identity. Like we leave a part of who we are behind. We have to rebuild ourselves like in a completely new place, like in a new country with a different language, far from our family, that far from everyone that really knows us. And on top of that, there is a language barrier, and many immigrants face racism. They face financial pressure and a lot of uncertainties. And to understand the immigrant mental health, we need to look at the bigger picture, like the history and the system behind it. So, for a long time, immigration policies in the US have created fear and unequal opportunity for many immigrants. And racism also plays a big role. Like the that idea of whiteness as a form of power that I have studied this semester, it does affect like how people get better access to better jobs, they get better education, they get a better access to healthcare, and all of this created a chronic stress. That the kind of builds up over time. And this stress does not affect only the body; it does affect like the mind too. And many immigrants like ended up working long hours, with low wage jobs, with no benefits, no protection. So the stress keeps like stacking up. But who is the most affected? Well, some of the most affected groups are the Latinos, the Asians, and the undocumented immigrants. So they do face like some of the highest level of stress and anxiety too. And also there's another group, it's the women's and children, because they deal with extra pressure. Like especially when the family are separated, or if the family is struggling financially. So it adds that pressure on them. So these mental issues are not just like a random, they reflect like the challenges that is around them. And by talking about challenges, when when someone moves to a new country, they don't just learn a new language. When they arrive, it's not only the language. It's they have to build like their whole life from zero. And unfortunately, many immigrants they deal with this language barrier. They also have to deal with discrimination, financial stress, low work conditions, and the fear of being like judged or deported. Imagine like you trying to work, you study, take care of yourself and your family for some, while you have this constant like thoughts and things to worry about your rights, about your safety and the safety of your family. So this creates a level of stress that most of people do not experience. And I wanted to share a challenge that as an immigrant, I faced. I'm an international student, and sometimes, to be honest, like a lot of times, I feel embarrassed because of my English for not having a perfect English and type like this accent and my grammatical errors. And that's a challenge for me. And sometimes I feel anxious and stressed, because of that. But there is also something really beautiful. It's the immigrant community. Like they are really strong, and there's like this the families like supporting each other, like emotionally and even financially. And the cultural traditions, like the faith, all of this like help the people like to feel grounded. And even with all the barriers, the immigrants they show resilience like every single day. And and through this we can see like the strength and hope that the immigrant community have. Yeah. So here are some quick facts. So um undocumented immigrants they often struggle with anxiety, as I said, like with anxiety, depression, and fear, because they live with so much uncertainty and so much pressure. But the problem is about 23% of the immigrants don't have insurance, and the number is higher for undocumented immigrants. It's around 45% roughly, and only about 1 in 3 Latinos who need mental health actually get treatment. So it's a really low numbers, so this shows like that the mental health problems comes from social conditions, not from weakness, but from social. Yeah, and so here we can see, as I was saying, that like around like 25, like 26% of the immigrants they have insurance, and 42% of the undocumented immigrants they don't have health insurance. So it's hard for them to seek medical need, like mental health care. Then this immigration status really affect like when someone can get the help they need. One thing that I found like really interesting is that many immigrants actually arrive in the US healthier comparing to the general population. And this effect is called health immigrant effect. But over time, the immigrant health declines. Not because they are unhealthy, it's because the environment that they live it's so stressful with all the discrimination, the dangerous job, the lack of healthcare, all that pressure, makes their health decline. And all that stress it hurts both the body and mind. It's just not only physically, the mental, the body and mind, it is connected. So the health declines because of all of these challenges. And also, there is the homesickness among the immigrants. Um, it is one thing really interesting that in many immigrants, when they arrive here, they feel it. I feel, I felt it when I first came to America in, I believe it was 2018. Yeah, it was 2018. I felt homesick. It's very common, like in the first months, because we miss our family, we miss the food, the language, the culture. It's basically like we miss the whole world like we were living before, and then it suddenly changed. And you do feel homesick, and this causes like sadness, loneliness. You feel like sensitive. You have like trouble sleeping. And this happens because when someone moves to a new country, they lose a part of their identity. So, as I said in the beginning of the presentation, the identity part. So, this is really important. And without support, it gets really hard. And when you don't have support, you have been constantly living in this stress, all this anxiety, homesick. It turns into depression, and the depression it affects our energy, the mood, concentration, and it even affects the physical health. People feel like headache, stomach pain, you know, and the immigrants they may become like more depressed because they feel isolated. They feel misunderstood. There is the language barrier because many immigrants they had a hard time communicating in English, and also there is a pressure to feel that like it's a pressure to stay strong. And this is hard because it, many people do not seek help because they have this pressure like no I have to stay strong, I have to stay strong, and they just don't seek medical help to guide them through this. But what has been done and what can be done to help? um, Something that have helped like community clinics, bilingual therapists, and policies like the DACA, but many solutions still do not address the real cause, like the root of the problem. And just telling people to like take care of yourself, like that doesn't help. Like the system, it's is not helping. And my ideas, I think, would be like some solutions would include more affordable mental health care service, uh, more bilingual and culturally aware providers, strong protection for the immigrants, and immigration policies that reduce fear and not increase the fear. And this change needs to happen at the structural level, not just like individual one by one. No, it's the structure that has to change. Well, um, so to summarize, the immigrants' mental health, those issues comes from inequality, discrimination, fear, and not from weakness. It's not because they are weak. And if we want to improve the overall health, their overall health, we need to focus on the root of the causes. So we need better healthcare, safer working conditions, legal support, a stronger community network, and we need to recognize that the immigrants community are full of resilience and strength. And to finish, I wanted to share a quote from my favorite book. The book is Jonathan Livingston Seagull. I have read many times, and I believe it really connects to this topic. So the quote is, "You are free to go where you wish and to be who you are." So everyone deserve that freedom, like the freedom to feel safe, to belong, and to be helped. All right, thank you.